I just put a Flip Manufacturing steering cylinder on my John Deere 425. I'm going to tell you what I think about it and what I went through to put it on. Keep watching. Okay, what I've got here is a new aftermarket steering cylinder for my John Deere 425. I got this from Flip Manufacturing right off the website, $225 shipped. Looks okay, but what I've noticed first thing so far, the grease cups are not very good. They're just kind of whereas the original cylinder on the tractor has a much nicer grease cup that covers the whole cylinder end. I might try to swap those out. Another thing is these tapered studs are drilled for a castle nut, but it does not come with castle nuts. It comes with nylock nuts. But maybe I can reuse the castle nuts and cotters from the old cylinder. Another thing, I don't like the looks of these grease zerks. They look kind of small and cheap, and they're also painted over. I'm not really a fan of that, so I might try to swap those out. Other than that, I would say it might be okay. It certainly was cheaper than the Deere one. The Deere one was over $500 for a replacement, and while this is a good tractor, I don't think it's really worth that. So I was willing to give Flip a try. So the first thing I'm going to do is loosen this from the tractor and then see about getting these hoses off. This is just a 45 with a tapered adapter on it, and I think that'll just spin right off. It sure looks like a swivel fitting. I sure hope it is. The other hose is a straight fitting, no adapter, and I don't think that's a swivel fitting. I might have to pull this whole cylinder off and then just spin the cylinder on the end of the hose to get it apart, because I do not want to chase these hoses up to the valve and deal with that. So I might record some of that. I don't know, but I guess I'll get started. Okay, fast forward a few minutes. I've got the old cylinder unbolted. It was pretty easy actually. 22mm socket on each of the castle nuts. Came right off, and about 40 whacks with a big hammer got the tapered studs out. I did notice one more thing. The grease zerk on this end of the original cylinder is at the very end of the rod, whereas the new one, it's located right in the center of the cap. And when this gets installed, it'll be kind of in this orientation, so it might be really difficult to grease that unless there's a 45-degree fitting on that zerk. So I might try to change that out if I can find a 45. I think I can, but I don't know. There's also grease guns that will grease on a 90, or I guess, yeah, not a 45 zerk, a 90 zerk, 90-degree zerk is what we need for that. So I don't know. I might have one actually. I'll have to dig around, but so far so good. Now the next challenge is getting these hoses off, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, it's the next day, and what has happened, well, not a whole lot. I managed to get these hoses off. This one, the swivel fitting, backed out nice and easy. This is what's called an ORFS hose end, O-ring face seal, and that swivels right here, came right out no problem. This end does not swivel, so what I had to do was spin the cylinder around the hose to remove it. So once I got everything apart, I realized I needed new O-rings. There was one here, and then one here. So two straight thread, what are called straight thread O-rings, S-T-O-R, store, and then one O-ring face seal, or ORFS. And I could not get those on a Sunday. I had to wait till Monday to go to the dealer to get them, to get everything put back together. But everything went back together pretty good. I managed to spin the new cylinder on the hose, no trouble at all there. And this goes together nice and easy. If you don't know how to put these types of joints together, it's not difficult. Don't worry. What you do is you back this lock nut off as much as you can, put the O-ring on, spin it in, get it oriented where you want, and then lock this nut down. And then the ORFS side, nice and easy, put the new O-ring in the fitting, and then thread this on straight and tighten it right up. You don't need to Gorilla tighten these. Just turn them till they stop and give it a little more snugness, and they should be good. Okay, so grease zerks. I wanted to put a 90 in here. I found one, but it wouldn't thread in. And rather than possibly ruin this cap, I decided to just put the original Zerk back in. I think once everything's installed, there'll be enough room for someone to get a grease gun on there if they really want to. I pumped it up with grease, and I think it'll be okay. These won't need much grease anyway. This end is fine, no changes there. I put the boots from the original cylinder right here on the new one. Oops. Got this one on as well. That should be okay. And then there's also a roll pin that goes in this end of the cylinder. I had to pull that out of the old one and put it in here. What I noticed was the hole on this, while it was there, it was a little bit too big, so the pin doesn't fit real snug. I think it's okay, because I think it just touches up inside this axle somewhere, and I don't think it'll go anywhere. Should be fine. Let's see, I think that's it. Now I will put this back in, and then I got to figure out how to bleed it. I don't think, well, you don't bleed it so much. I think you just have to cycle it, get everything going, start the tractor, cycle it back and forth to get the air out. It'll probably take a while to do that, and it'll probably behave strangely while that's happening as well. So I'm going to get to work on that, and I guess I'll come back to it. We'll look at the finished product. All right, I got the new cylinder on. What I was going to do originally was try to get the old castle nuts back on, but these studs are a little bit different. I just couldn't get the hole to line up. So I put the nylock nuts on there. I don't know, maybe after it runs for a while, those studs will seat better, and then maybe more of that stud will be exposed and I could put castle nuts on. Maybe a shorter castle nut is out there, and we could try that. But for now, I think this is okay. I used my impact and gave it a fair amount of ugga-duggas to get it good and tight. I can still turn it by hand with a 1/2-inch bar, and it seems to be okay. They're not over tightened. This hose back here, that one's tight. This one is still loose. So I want to run it through its range of motion to make sure the hose doesn't touch anything, and that looks pretty good right there. It's real close. Bring it down just a little bit. Now I'll snug up the nut. Make sure that fitting doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, that's good. Oh yeah. About a 1/4 inch of clearance. Just fine. I wanted this hose up as high as possible so it doesn't catch anything. It could probably come up higher. I mean, realistically, this front axle will probably never go through its entire range of motion. But just to be safe, I don't want it to make contact. All right. Next step, I got to lower this front end a little bit. I'm not going to put the wheels on yet, but I want to lower it, get it level so I can run it. And then I'll just turn the steering wheel back and forth and see if I can get the air out of it, see if it works. All right, all done. Steering cylinder is on. It seems to function just fine. I didn't notice any issues with air bleeding out of it. So what I did is I started with the old cylinder collapsed and then put the new one in the same way. That way there's a lot less volume of oil to have to make up. But I ran it around the yard, seemed to steer just fine. I didn't notice any difference in performance between the old one and the new one. So far, I'd say the Flip manufacturing cylinder is pretty good. Now, is it as good as the original? No. I wish it fit a little better. I wish the Zerks were a little better. But, you know, for half the price, it is, I think, well worth it. Of course, I can't do a long-term study on it, right? I'm just putting this on to make the video. And actually, I'm going to sell this tractor. I bought it for my dad. I was going to fix it up and give it to him, but he decided he didn't want it. So now I'm just going to get rid of it. It's way too much for me. It's got a 60-inch deck on it. It's a big tractor, but it's nice. Would I like to keep it? Yeah, maybe. But for now, I'm just going to sell it. So yeah, that's it. Hope you learned something. If so, good. Glad I could help. So yeah, bottom end, or maybe top end, Flip Manufacturing's aftermarket cylinder for the 425. Give it a solid meh.